Let's begin in Nigeria, where Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been elected as the next president. The main opposition parties are launching a legal case, though.
The elected is in question.
Let's begin in Nigeria, where Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been elected as the next president. The main opposition parties are launching a legal case, though, claiming the vote was riddled with irregularities. We'll discuss those elements shortly, but first, let's take a look at some numbers. Nigeria is Africa's most populous country with an estimated 216 million people. In the run-up to the election, 87 million of them held the voter identity cards that permitted them to take part. But of these, just under 25 million Nigerians actually voted last week. That made it a record lowest ever turnout in a Nigerian presidential vote. So what went wrong on election day? Here are some views from...
So I think a lot of Nigerians would disagree with those numbers, especially considering the fact that some people went to acquire the voter's card and they did not get it before the election. Voter's card were even found in the... Just watch.
People were ready to vote, but there are so many hiccups. The beavers was not working, names were not on voters register. Even with you having your voter's card in your hand, you are disenfranchised. So it's so annoying, it's painful that I couldn't vote.
They don't have cash to move around, and you can't expect people to be out when they don't have cash to move around. So I think that's one of the factors that affect the turnout.
Yes. So Nigeria introduced a new currency, and a lot of people could not get their hands on they introduced a new currency, but people could not get it. And people were broke, as a matter of fact, because they couldn't get money.
They don't have cash to move around, so I think that's one of the factors that affect the turnout.
Yes, I think I should also add to that. So in Nigeria, it's not like in Canada where a lot of things are done with card and transaction. You can just email somebody money. It's not like that in Nigeria. People are mostly dependent on cash. So that's why when you hear they didn't have money, it's possible they had money in the bank account, but they did not have cash to spend. So that's what he was talking about.
I bought it. My vote is counted because, the election is free and fair. It's one of the best elections so far we had in this country.
People came out, so that is a lie. People came out the very first time in my polling unit that I saw a number of people that turned out, almost 170 something. The last election, we were not even up to 50. But this time we're 179, if I want to remember. People came out, it's all lie. People came out.
With the kind of people I saw outside, there was no way that kind of total vote would be said to have been casted on this election. It is just a complete shambles.
We can now speak to Hidayat Hassan, Director of the Center for Democracy and Development. She joins us now from Abuja. Welcome to the program. Now, you were an observer at the elections. Can you sum up the conduct of this vote?
I think it was quite interesting because Nigerians started from the spirit of excitement, enthusiasm, and one to anxiety that almost got into anger because of the conduct of the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections. And I think it all borders on few challenges that actually emanated from the elections. One, the poor handling of logistics by the election management body, the incidences of voter intimidation and suppression in parts of the country, and of course, violence and some very little vote buying were also encountered. So put together, this has kind of blighted the outcome of the elections in the minds of many people. People expected much, but they got very little in terms of what they were promised as it relates to the quality of the elections.
Right. Now, the opposition parties, the main opposition parties are saying they'll take this to court. What do election challenges look like in Nigeria? Do these parties actually stand a chance of getting what they want from the courts?
That's a good question.
I think they do stand a chance. It's part of electoral justice, and that is what democracy itself entails. This is a process that they feel that has actually been flawed in several instances, and it will not just be the presidential candidate that will actually be approaching the court. It will also be some of the national officials, the legislative offices that were actually contested that would have that. And I feel that there will be a gale of litigation, and with some quashed by the court itself. The court still remains the last habitat in terms of disputes in this country, and it is the best option. And
if the court has not been infiltrated. This morning we saw reports from I didn't want to give this out, but my mouth just wants to talk about it. I'm going to tell you anyways. So spoiler, in the video, the compilation I'm going to bring, this lady said members of the tribunal were bribed. I think about, is it 10 million or 10 billion? The court they're going to. That's what the lady was talking about. I don't know how true this is, but that's the reports I got this morning. I'll show you that.
We are hopeful they will get justice where required.
Okay, Idat, we'll continue this conversation shortly. But let's now take a closer look at the man who's been declared the winner of the elections, Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a former governor of Nigeria's commercial hub, Lagos State. He is seen as a political godfather and kingmaker who has raised other politicians. And now he says it's his turn. Tinubu claims to be the mastermind behind the economic prosperity of Lagos, in which the city has benefited from huge investment, and he says he wants to replicate the same model across the country. He has consistently denied the allegations of corruption that have plagued his political career. The 70-year-old president-elect wants to continue some of the policies of his predecessor, President Muhammadu Buhari. He wants to focus heavily on industrialization and agriculture, as well as tackling Nigeria's security challenges through local and state policing.
To you, the people, especially the youth, I will work day and night. I will work to the utmost best of my ability to make Nigeria better.
Opponents claim he's in fragile health and even point to occasional incoherence in his public speeches. But Tinubu's camp insists he's competent in every way to run the country. The immediate tasks he faces will test these claims as he takes over a troubled country.
Idat Hassan is still with us. Democracy and governance is your specialty. So in that regard, what can we expect from a Tinubu presidency?
That smell.
I think the president, the work of actually rebuilding Nigeria goes beyond Tinubu himself or his party. It will include having Nigerians on board to make changes happen. And the first thing is that Nigerians expect to see him from the first day making decisions. He must hit the ground running. And paramount is actually rebuilding national unity itself by running an inclusive government that is inclusive of youth, women, and all ethnicity and religion, and assuring them that this is not going to be a government of one religion or which one part of the country will feel marginalized. Then following that, immediately we'll be addressing the epidemic of insecurity that is actually ravaging this country, from the jihadist insurgency to the banditry to the separationist agitation. These are important, but it entails beyond having boots on ground to one that actually adopts non-kinetic efforts such as justice sector reform, addressing poverty, who gets what as very, very important components. And above all, the economy is extremely important. Nigeria has gone through recession twice in the last 7 years plus. We have more than 33% unemployment rates, and these are extremely young people.
Hey, who is counting 33%? Hey. Okay, if you say so, if you say 33%, we'll agree.
Because this is a country with a median age of just around 19 years old. So this addressing the economy will be extremely important so that Nigerians can actually feel that democracy is delivering dividends to them, not just a motion of going through elections every 4 years.
Okay. Hidayat Hassan, Director of the Center for Democracy and Development. Thank you for speaking to us.
Let me know what you think. So that's a brief of what happened in the election. I'm sure the Nigerians on the streets told you what they think happened. So just to give a brief, right? Some of the reports, just consider all of these speculations. I might be even lying. So just take this with a grain of salt. That's how they say, right? Yeah. So basically, what happened during the election was there were reports of people going to the polling units. There was no polling units, as a matter of fact, in some cases. But when the results were counted, the results from the polling units existed. Another one was, they said the server for the beavers, which was the election thing, was turned off. Another case was the election being completely altered, like the numbers after the count were made openly to the people, and then behind closed doors, the numbers were altered. The violence, some people were trying to vote and thugs were sent to disrupt the place. Now, I'm not saying any particular candidates did these things. These were the reports that happened across the board in the elections. So it's not a good thing to reflect democracy in a nation. So that's why major concerns are being raised with how the election was handled. It's possible the people who are in the electoral board did their best. I can't say they did not, because our best is very relative, right? So it's possible they did their best. I'm not blaming any one person for it. But what I'm saying is, if this was not handled correctly, then it should be fixed. It should be addressed. The case is still in court. Hopefully the people in the court are going to do the right things. The lawyers, the judge, all of them, hopefully they do the right thing. But if the right thing doesn't get done, it's going to seem like people can just get away with things. No accountability, which is something I don't like. Anyways, that's what I think about the Nigerian election. I'll bring you the compilation, and next we're going to look at what is going on in Zimbabwe. Well, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a wonderful day. Peace. I made this bed on my own.